How's it going? Just playing a little bit of music. You are watching the Girls Inc. Valley YouTube channel. We are live from our houses, and we are doing our media meetup number 2. This is episode 2 of Alexa and Katie. So, yeah, I'm just going to turn on a little bit of music, let people kind of fall in, and just vibe. It's going to turn into a dance party, not a media club. One of my favorite songs. I just feel like you can't listen to it without dancing. So yeah. How's everybody doing? I see you got a couple people going in and out. Let me see if I can make a comment. Yes, welcome to Media Club, everybody. Hi, Lyric. Hello, Anissa. Anissa just got off of her Junie B. Jones book club live. Hey, Cassie. That's always going to be at 1, an hour before mine. So maybe if media isn't your speed and you want to get a book read to you, you can check that out also. It's going to be here in the same place. How are we feeling, everyone? I'm going to put a word for how I'm feeling. Thanks for the shout out, Anissa says. No problem. I'm going to leave a comment. Is the music too loud? Not loud enough? Can you still hear what I'm saying? Let me know. Let the kid know. I think I spelled that right. Feeling good. Happy about Friday. Feeling happy it's Friday. TGIF, everybody. Thank goodness it is Friday. Here's how I'm feeling. Excited and optimistic. Yes. Those are just 2 words that come to mind. How are y'all feeling? Also, I don't have the rights to any of this music. I do not own any of this. I thought I just disclaimer. Hopefully I don't get like shut down. None of this music is mine. It belongs to other people. I'll even put what the song is and who it's by. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that. I was like, oh goodness. But yes. Energy. I have some good energy. Yes, it's a good energy. Awesome stuff. I'm excited to dig into this episode. Fun fact, I don't even know if I should be saying this. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm currently on season 2, episode 5. So I've definitely watched a lot of the show. So I kind of had to go back and be like, oh yeah, I remember when that happened, when reviewing the episodes for Media Club. It's actually a really good show. So yeah. Good to hear. Everyone's feeling good, energy, especially in a time like this. In a few minutes or so, we're gonna start digging into our discussion. Have any of y'all had the chance to check out the show a little bit? Or are we still coming in with a fresh mind, so to speak? I already know I've watched a lot of this show. But yes. Let me know. I'll take a sip of my water. As always, the straw is compostable. Ladies, gentlemen, and friends. Alrighty. Okay. So ready to talk about it. Anissa, have you had a chance to watch the show? I'd be really it's kind of cheesy, but it's like the perfect amount of cheese, I love it. I think it's a really good show. So I'm also ready to kind of dive in and start discussing. So I think I'll turn down the music and we can start talking about it. So yeah, hello everybody. I see we have about 5 viewers. If you want to give a quick comment, let me know how you're feeling if you're just jumping in, or if you want to just kind of vibe, don't really feel like commenting, that's your preference. I'm just happy that you're here. Okay, awesome. So last week we talked a little bit about the show. We also talked about the elements to a good story, right? So every good story has to have about 5 things. Does anybody remember what those 5 things were? If you don't remember, I'm going to tell you, but I want to see if you remember. Every good story's got to have these like 5 things. It's like the key ingredients of the story. Just as a setting, that's one. Setting is super important. Just a reminder, setting is when and where your story is taking place. So for Alexa and Katie, it's like modern times, and I would say probably somewhere on the East Coast, maybe like New York. Gives me like upstate New York vibes. I don't know. Or like Connecticut or something. So yeah, setting, that's one of them. I'll pop in and I'll say characters. Every good story needs to have characters. Characters are who your story is about. So we have a lot of characters in the show. We got Alexa, Katie, Lori, and Jennifer, their respective parents. We got Dave, which is Alexa's dad, Lucas, Alexa's brother, Jack, Katie's brother, and a bunch of like secondary characters, which are characters that are in the story, but they're not like essential to the plot. They just kind of add some extra depth to everything. Climax. Yes, I know episode 2 is about. Awesome. Yeah, so the climax is kind of like the peak of our plot, right? So plot is another thing. The plot is the actual story, the different things that happen within the story, any conflicts or problems, how they get resolved. That's a resolution. So those 5 essential things are characters, settings, plot, conflict, and resolution. So yeah, so it's been a week and we are back. So we're talking about episode 2. So how we start off episode 2, we have Alexa and we have Katie, and they're like freshly shaven heads. And they made a very spontaneous decision. And now it's like actually sinking in, like, oh wow, like I actually don't have any hair. And Alexa even says, my hair, like I had hair, it was falling out in chunks, but I had it. And she was kind of like, I knew I was going to lose all of it at some point, so they kind of just shaved it all at once to kind of avoid the trauma of like seeing your hair fall out in chunks. And Katie did it also to show support for her best friend, and she showed support in a really bold way. There are a lot of ways that we can show support for people, whether it's when your friends or family or someone else you care about, if they're feeling down, saying, hey, I'm here for you, or whether they're excited about something. Maybe they're pursuing a new project or they got an A on a test and you're saying, good job. That's also a way to support a friend or to support someone you care about. What are some go-to ways that y'all support people? I'll look at the comments. Hydration. Yeah, talking about support. And it's so important to support everybody, but especially like people close to us, right? So Jess just popped in and said, I like to write notes or letters to my friends to let them know I'm thinking about them. That's a really good way to show support for your friends, letting them know that you're thinking of them, especially in a time like this, right? So you could send them a text, give them a phone call, write a letter, maybe include like a little craft of some sort or a drawing. Anissa says, I listen to them. Sometimes just listening helps more than speaking does. Right. So sometimes if, a friend of ours is having a problem, sometimes they just want to feel heard. Sometimes they don't necessarily want advice or how to fix their problem. Sometimes they just want to know that someone is actively listening. So that's also a good way to show support for people. Awesome, 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 awesome. So, yeah, and we know that Katie is very supportive of Alexa. Katie is always there, and vice versa. It's important that as much as we show support for our friends, it's important to make sure that they're supporting us also, because friendship is like a seesaw. That's not what a seesaw looks like. Well, you have this like point in the middle, right? And then you have like two seats, which would be like my elbows. And you want to make sure the seesaw is always balanced. So if you have one friend here and the other friend here, and one of them is always supporting one of them is always going to be up here and this one's going to be down here, right? So you want to make sure that they're balanced and that you're always equally supporting each other and being there for each other. I think that's a friendship is like a seesaw. That's how I think about it. Cassie says, I listen to my friends and I always tell them that they got this. Awesome. So sounds like you are all super supportive friends. You all have been very supportive to me at one point or another, and I'd like to think I've been supportive to y'all. So shout out to supporting your friends, just like Alexa and Katie do. So yes. So in the first episode, they've kind of realized what they've done, and they're like, "Oh my!" And they started school on Thursday. They did not start school on Monday like everybody else because of their suspension. This is great analogy. Very important to have balance in a friendship. Thank you. Sometimes analogies help me understand things better. So I thought I would share that in case it could help someone else understand things better. So then they're like, okay, maybe we've bitten off a little bit more than what we can chew. So they say, we're going to go to the wig store in the mall, in their local mall. So they're going to the wig store and they run into their friends or they see their friends, right? They don't want anybody to know that they've shaven their heads. They don't want anybody to figure out why they might have done that. Do we have any idea why they wouldn't want people to know or why they would keep that hidden? Because that's like such a bold thing to do, right? So why do that if it's gonna stay hidden? What do you think? Looking in the comments, looking in the comments. What I should do is get the Jeopardy music, and every time I ask a question, do the Jeopardy music, and then when it's over, look at the comments. Next week. At the comments. So, yes. So they see their friends, but their friends don't recognize them. Anna says maybe they are nervous about what their friends think. That is a super valid thing, and I think that might actually be the case. I know that, or we know that in the first episode, Alexa talks about how she doesn't want to be known as the sick girl, right? She doesn't want people to treat her any differently just because of her cancer. And obviously, when we see somebody who doesn't have any hair, who's bald, that's kind of like the first thing that we make assumptions about, right? That they must have cancer, they must be sick, when in actuality, there's a lot of reasons why people could be bald. For one, obviously they could have cancer, they could have alopecia, which is another condition that makes your hair fall out. They could just not want hair. Maybe it's too much to deal with. This is a lot to deal with, maybe somebody doesn't want that. So, that's also a valid thing. It's important not to make assumptions about people or guess things about people without actually knowing about them. That's what an assumption is. In case anybody needed some clarification. But yeah, so they're hiding from their friends. And then also something else that I wanted to talk about while they were in the wig store. So Alexa and Katie went to the wig store, and Alexa's mom, they don't really talk about the price of anything. It's assumed that Alexa can pretty much just get any of the ones that she wants. But then Katie, on the other hand, it's a little bit different. So let's talk about that. So Katie says, "Hey, mom, we're going to the wig store." And Katie's mom gives Katie her credit card and says, "Don't go over the $100 limit on our credit card," right? So whereas Alexa can kind of have more of a leeway with money, she doesn't really worry about the cost of things too much. We noticed that with Katie's family and with Katie, the situation's a little bit different, right? They have to be a bit more cautious about how much money they're spending on things and budgeting. So they're in the wig store, and there are some more realistic wigs, like we see in the first episode that Katie has blonde hair, Alexa has brown hair, and there are wigs that are blonde and brown that look more natural, as if they'd never shaved their heads at all. And those ones are like $300, which is way above Katie's limit, right? But then she finds a $50 wig, and it's like this bright bubblegum pink, like very, not natural looking. And it could definitely be like, Katie's hair doesn't normally look like that. Like that would definitely draw attention to her and the fact that she's wearing a wig. But it was all that she could afford, but she doesn't quite take her mom's advice. And we see what she does is that she gets both of them anyway and goes over her mother's spending limit on a credit card. Why do you think that might be a bad idea? There's a few reasons, but I'm just going to look at the comments and see why that might not have been the smartest decision for Katie to make. And I'll give about 30 seconds, and I will play a little music. It might not be the Jeopardy music, and again, I have no rights to any of this music. I don't own this at all. Disclaimer, YouTube. Yeah, waiting for some of the comments to pop in. All right. We got a comment from Jess saying maybe the family was counting on that money to use for another reason. And Anissa says, I agree with Jess. Right. Money is a very tough thing to talk about. Some people have more money than others for a lot of different reasons. So maybe in Katie's situation, that extra $200 that was over the limit for their family, that could have gone towards, food or electricity, hot water, clothes, something else besides what Katie wanted or needed, you know? Cassie says, I agree also. And then also, what are some differences that we're noticing between Alexa's household and Katie's household? You know, we often see in the show that Katie's mom kind of references like, "Oh, take some extra paper towels from the bathroom," or "Oh, I've been like using your Wi-Fi," stuff like that. I think Katie's family definitely is struggling a little bit more than Alexa's, and that's the reality. And I think that the show addresses that and talks about it in a really cool way. So fast forward, and we see that Katie's mom and Alexa's mom are hanging out in the living room, and Katie's mom ordered a pizza. And so they get the pizza, she gives the credit card, and then the pizza delivery guy says, "Uh-oh, your card's declined." And Katie's mom is like, that's impossible. Like I had, enough money on the card. The card declined because Katie spent over the limit. So there we go. That's a reason why when we have limits to money, it's good to stick to them, because if we don't, then we can't afford other things that we might want or need. So Katie's mom and Katie have a talk about that. And what Katie's mom says is that we can't spend money on things we can't afford. She just says to Katie, we don't buy things that we can't afford, right? And they reach a little bit of a compromise. Does anybody remember what the compromise is that they reached? Don't worry, it's a compostable straw. Wait for the comments to pop up. What was the compromise Katie and her mom reached? So Anissa says, if I remember correctly, Katie needs to work and use her own money. That actually comes up in a little bit of a later episode, but I will say that the compromise that they reach is that Katie's mom just kind of firmly reminds her that we can't buy things that we don't have the money for, that we can't afford, and that next week, after her mom gets paid again, they're going to go back and get the more realistic wig. But for the next couple days, she's going to have to wear the like bubblegum pink one that looks a little more artificial. So, yes. So, on the topic of their families, in the second episode, did we notice any interesting or strange behavior from the parents, in particular Alexa's parents, in terms of seeing Alexa without hair? You know, how did they respond to that? What were some of the things that they were doing or saying? Or were they not saying anything at all? I'll also type the questions in the chat box in case we get sidetracked. Let me just type something in here real quick. How did Alexa's parents react to her hair? Yes, and for reference, Jennifer is Alexa's mom and Dave is Alexa's dad. And a little bit of music that I, again, don't own the rights to. Checking out the comments. To their hair loss. What are we thinking? What did we notice? What did we not notice? You know, sometimes the lack of something can have more of an effect than actually doing something, you know? In. So I'm just going to jump in and say that I definitely notice Alexa's dad kind of acting strange. Anna says, did they have a hard time accepting it? Right. So Alexa's dad was acting a little strange, as we see in the show. He kind of tries not to look at her for too long, tiptoes around her a bit, and the type of cancer that Alexa specifically has is leukemia. So her family signed up to do a 10K run in to raise awareness and money for leukemia research. And Dave says, "Oh yes, we're doing the 10K run for," and he has trouble getting the word out, right? So maybe, you know, he could have been in a little bit of denial about it. And denial is kind of a big word. Denial means that you don't think something is true, or you're having a hard time believing that something is true. Anita says, Dave, her dad, struggles with seeing Alexa without any hair, but after a while he understood. Anissa hit the nail on the head with that. And then also with Jennifer and Lori's behavior. Alexa's mom says something along the lines of, this is the healthiest that Alexa has been since her diagnosis, but then when her hair started falling out, it's just been hard to remember that she's doing well. right? So her hair coming out is kind of a wake up call, kind of a reminder, like, okay, like, this is a thing. So I think that her parents were definitely in denial of that. I'm gonna put that in the chat box. That's the definition of denial. And a lot of us can struggle with that. A lot of us can have trouble believing that something is true. For example, with all of this quarantine stuff, sometimes I find myself in denial of, the fact that this stuff is happening. And those are tough feelings to navigate, right? Those are tough feelings to kind of feel. So it's important to have, like we said earlier, that support system. Always having somebody that you could talk to or somebody that will listen. And that can be friends, family, us here at Girls Inc. We are a support system. We try to offer support in any way that we can for each other and for our girls. In the comments. Okay, awesome. So, sorry, flipping my little paper over. So then going back to the piece about denial, right? So towards the end of the episode, Alexa has a conversation with her dad. So we notice him acting very strange during the episode, avoiding eye contact, going for runs, so he kind of doesn't have to be near the rest of them. And how do you think that differs from Alexa's mom's behavior, right? So you look at how Dave is behaving versus how Lori is behaving. And I think I accidentally called her Jennifer, but Alexa's mom is Lori, I'm pretty sure. Mom. Got the music going. Alrighty. So with Dave, we notice he's kind of has this avoiding type of perspective. He's kind of not really talking to Alexa, kind of not really wanting to look at her because he's kind of in denial of, the fact that Alexa actually has cancer. So I would definitely say that Dave is a bit avoidant. And avoidant means you're just trying to get away from something. Kind of plays into that denial piece. I'll also put that in the comments. And now, whereas with Alexa's mom's behavior, Alexa's mom's kind of taps into that. She digs into that a lot more. She's kind of on Alexa too much, saying, like, have you eaten today? You need to take a nap. Are you cold? You should sit down. To the point where Alexa's kind of like, hey, mom, like, I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing okay. And I don't need to be baby, she says. She calls her mom smother sometimes instead of mother because she feels like her mom is kind of always on her, right? So I would say that Alexa's mom, on the other hand, is a lot more not avoidant and pressuring her a lot, smothering her, almost too concerned, right? And both of those things, whether it's being too concerned or kind of like avoiding it, those are both valid ways to that people try to sort out their feelings about something, whether it be a stressful situation like, someone they love being sick. And just because Dave is kind of like in denial about it, doesn't mean that he doesn't care about her, right? It doesn't mean that he's not concerned for her or not concerned about the situation. Those are just two different ways that people process their emotions, right? And two valid ways, you know. This is a stressful situation and not everybody's going to navigate it perfectly. And I think that's something that the show addresses and covers really well. So yeah, Dave who's kind of like hoarding it, and then Lori who's kind of like really tapping into it. So it's about finding that balance again, right? Almost like the seesaw. So important to note that. Dave has a conversation with Alexa. It starts because Alexa comes back from the wig store. She has her wig and she looks somewhat normal, whatever that's supposed to mean. And Dave says, "Oh, there we go. That's my girl." And then everyone kind of freezes for a second when he says, "That's my girl." This is the first time, really, in the whole episode that he's like talking to her more directly, not really like in awe of her, like not having any hair because she has the wig on, and is like making eye contact and being a bit more present, right? Whereas in the episode, he wasn't doing that before, and it's because she has a wig on, right? So, why do you, and then Alexa, obviously, she gets a little bit upset. Why do you think that she may have been upset by her dad saying, "Oh, that's my girl"? You know, she says, "What is that supposed to mean?" Is what she says to her dad. And what do we think that's supposed to mean, you know? I'll just type that in the comments. I'm gonna get some water first. Don't worry, the straw is compostable. For the comments to roll in. Put on beautiful music that I again don't own the rights to. Anybody have any idea? Okay. I'm just typing in the comment. Oh, we got a comment. Anissa says, "I think she is upset because her cancer or her hair does not define her. She is still the same person and her dad cannot see past her physical looks." I think Anissa said that very well, and I agree. I think that you know, by saying that's my girl, once Alexa had the wig on, you know, then it's kind of like, well, what was I to you when I didn't have on my wig? You know, like you didn't see me for me, and that hurt me. You know, I'm thinking that's probably what Alexa was feeling in the moment, and she talks to her dad about that. And then her dad apologizes, and it's just kind of admitting that he was in denial about it, and that seeing her without hair was more of a reminder, like you can't avoid, you know, the fact that she is sick now. You know what I mean? So, what could Dave have done differently? You know, he was stressed about his daughter. That's a super valid thing. You know, of course he would be concerned. But what do you think are some ways that he could have went about it differently? Maybe he could have worded what he said differently. You know, he could have said, "Wow, you look nice," rather than "That's my girl." placing the significance on her having hair that makes her more herself than her just being herself. Like she has to have hair to do that. And like Anissa said, that doesn't define her, right? And how are some ways that you act when you're stressed? Sometimes we don't handle stress. Sometimes we don't handle other negative emotions like anger and sadness in the healthiest ways, right? And we feel how we feel, and that's okay. But something that we can work on is thinking of some healthier ways to communicate our feelings or to process them. I think that's super important. But yes. So then at the very, very end of the episode, we have Alexa and Katie in their like bright bubblegum pink and blue wigs. And they're starting high school and they bump into their other friends, Hannah and Regan. Hannah and Regan are, like I was saying at the beginning of the live, they're like the secondary characters. Oh, I got a comment from Anissa. Anissa says, I am terrible at handling my stress. I shut myself away from everyone. I am trying to work on it. So, yeah, part of working on something is, admitting that there are better or other ways to do it, right? So I think, Anissa, for you, it's really cool that you were able to share that with us. And it's really cool that you recognize that and are trying to work on it. I think that's definitely a huge step in trying to make something better is to first just admit that it needs to get better. I almost forgot. Yes, secondary characters. So Hannah and Regan are secondary characters. They are kind of there to add support and depth to the plot of Alexa and Katie, but we don't really talk about like their families or like who they are or like what they go through because the story isn't about them, right? So a lot of the times in shows, we'll have our main characters and we'll have our secondary characters. Sometimes in shows or whatever, if people really like the secondary characters, in the next season, the writers and the people that work on the show will try to incorporate more details or more things about them into the show. And sometimes if they really like secondary characters and they want to learn more, they'll do what's called a spin-off show. And the spin-off show is when you have your main show with your main characters and then you have some secondary characters and you make a whole new different show with the secondary characters and now they are the main characters. So maybe if people really like Hannah and Regan, they'll have their own spin-off show, but I doubt it. That was shady. I didn't mean to be shady. They're cool, but not a lot of substance. So, but they talk, and that's when Alexa decides to make a really big decision and share with her other friends that she has cancer, and that's why she is wearing the wigs, and that Katie also shaves her head in support of Alexa. And that's a big thing to share because up until this point, the only people that had known were Alexa's immediate family, Katie, and like the doctors and nurses at the hospital where Alexa gets her treatment, right? So she's decided to take a big step, and share that with her other friends. And let's talk about their reactions, right? So Hannah just starts crying and she's like, "Oh, that's so sad." And Alexa is kind of feeling awkward, like, sometimes when we think about someone that may be sick, excuse me, sorry, a little too much water. Sometimes when we think about somebody that is sick, we kind of just jump to like the worst thing. We react immediately with that like sadness and that pity. But that might not always be the best thing to tell that person because, and I think that something that the show addresses very well is that Alexa is so much more than her cancer, right? There are so many other things that she cares about and that she's passionate about. she likes to do, likes to learn, what she's hopeful for, where her dreams are, Cancer is like only like a tiny piece of this giant puzzle that makes up someone, right? And sometimes in all of us, people might look at, how we dress or where we come from or our skin color or something, and they'll say that that defines you. And, that's not true. It's a piece of the puzzle, and anything that's a piece of your puzzle is important, but you also have to remember that it's not the whole puzzle, right? It doesn't define you. So let's say if I have a big puzzle that's like lyric, what is lyric all about? There's a lot of different things that I care about. My friends, my family, I have pets, I'm a singer, I like to sing, I'm a part of Girls Inc. Like those are all pieces of my puzzle, but not one single piece of that puzzle is enough to describe me as a person. They all work together to make up my personality and my identity and who I am. So, something to think about might be what your puzzle looks like. If you were to take yourself and make a puzzle, what are your different little pieces, right? What are the things that make you you? And, recognizing that it's not just a single puzzle piece that defines you, right? So I think that's something important to mention. And we definitely see that a lot in the show. And this is only the second episode, of course, but as you get further into the series, you see Alexa, trying to do different things, trying to, do more things that she's passionate about, explore, all that stuff. And you see that there are definitely, you see all of her other puzzle pieces, so to speak. So, yes. Anybody want to share something that may be a piece of their puzzle? I'll share something. I'll say, I am a singer. That is a piece of my puzzle. Hydrate, people. Water is important. Awesome. Anissa says, I am a writer. So Anissa being a writer, that's a piece of her puzzle. But, if you look at Anissa or anybody as a whole person, as a whole puzzle piece, it's not just her being a writer. There's so many other pieces. And it's important that we recognize that in everybody that we come across throughout our lives. I'm a writer. Awesome. I think some other, if anybody else wants to chime in with what's a piece of their puzzle. Awesome, Anissa. Thank you for sharing. I don't own the rights to this music. Anna says, I am a big sister, and that is a piece of her puzzle. Awesome, Anna. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, awesome. Think of something right now, but maybe after the live is over, if you want to think about it a little bit and then comment on the video what might be a piece of your puzzle or any of the other things that we have talked about. I think that's just about where we leave off for this episode. So I just want to say thanks for joining and for chatting or simply just watching, just kind of vibing. And if you would like to watch the next episode, episode 3 of Alexa and Katie, you are more than welcome to. Or if you're like me, you watched the whole season and now you're on episode 5 of season 2. But you're more than welcome to. But keep in mind that for our next week for Media Club, we're not going to be discussing Alexa and Katie. We're going to be doing something different. Excuse me. So how I kind of want it to look like is an episode of Alexa and Katie, then something different, an episode of Alexa and Katie, and then something different. So that way we still get to, invest our time and everything into the series while also checking out some other things. So for next week's live, we are going to be tuning in to. Sorry.
What are you doing?
I am on YouTube Live, Dad.
Okay, well, you gotta be right when you act like, you know what I mean? I don't want to embarrass you when you do live, but I'm still your dad, and I own this house. When I open the door, I should be able to open it. Okay? I don't know you on YouTube Live. Okay, I'll talk to you later.
So, with that being said, check out Brainchild on Netflix. Every week it's something with me, right? So, it's called The Brainchild. I will put it in the comments. It is on Netflix, and we're going to be watching the episode about dreams. So, it's a docu-series, and yeah, thank you so much, and I'm going to check off.